Hi students, today let us learn another lesson, that is The Beggar by Anton Chekhov. The story begins with a beggar's pleas to an advocate, Sergei. The beggar says that he has not eaten in 3 days. For 8 years he was a village school teacher and fell victim to a conspiracy that cost him his reputation and his job. For a year, he has had no employment. Sergei looks at the beggar's overcoat and face. He thinks he has seen him elsewhere. The beggar further explains that he has been offered a position in the province of Kalyuga, but to take it up, he needs money. Sergei observes the beggar's horseshoes. One is higher than the other. He suddenly remembers where he had seen the beggar before. He tells the beggar that 2 days ago he had met him in Sadova Street, and the latter had claimed that he had been a student who had been expelled. The beggar is surprised and claims that he has papers to prove that he was a village school teacher. Sergei turns away from him disgusted. Sergei says that for this fraud he will call the police. At this, the beggar confesses that he used to be part of a Russian choir and had been expelled for drunkenness. He says he has no choice but to lie, as no will help him if he tells them the truth. Sergei tells him to work. He asks the beggar if he would like to chop wood for him. The beggar accepts. Sergei takes the beggar home and tells his cook, Olga, to take him to the woodshed. It becomes apparent from the beggar's body language that he has accepted this job only out of pride and shame, and not because he wants to work. It is also apparent that the beggar has become frail because of drinking vodka and does not have the slightest will to do hard work. Sergei observes Olga and the beggar from the window in the dining room. He sees them making their way through the snow to the woodshed. Olga does not seem to take kindly to the beggar. Upon reaching the shed, Olga speaks to the beggar to cut the wood. He then sees the beggar seat himself upon a log and look lost in thought. Olga flings an axe at his feet, spits angrily, and appears to be scolding him. At this point, the beggar begins to make half-hearted attempts to chop a piece of wood. By now, Sergei's anger has vanished, and he begins to feel ashamed at having sent a spoiled, drunken, and perhaps sick man to do hard labor in the cold weather. After an hour, Olga informs Sergei that all the wood has been chopped. Sergei tells her to pay the beggar half a ruble and also tell him that he can come back to cut wood on the first day of every month. There would always be work for him too. On the first date of the next month, the waif comes to chop wood and earns half a ruble again, though he can barely stand steady on his feet. After that, he turns to Sergei's yard many times and is given work every time. Every time he is paid 20 to 40 kopecks, and one time he is also given a pair of old trousers. When Sergei moves to a new house, the waif is hired to help with the packing and moving of furniture. This time, he comes silent, sober, and gloomy. He does not even pretend to be working. He shivers in the cold and becomes embarrassed when the courtiers laugh at his behavior and his tattered overcoat. Sergei sends for him and says he is happy that the waif is working and is sober. He asks the later for his name. The waif says his name is Lashkov. Sergei offers him a better job and asks Lashkov if he can write. When Lashkov says that he can write, Sergei asks him to take a letter to someone the next day where he will be given copying work. Sergei reminds him to work hard, be sober, and remember his words. Sergei is happy at having set Lashkov on the right path. Lashkov takes the letter and after that day does not return to work for Sergei. 2 years ago, one day when Sergei is buying tickets at a theater's ticket window, he notices a small man beside him wearing a coat collar of curly fur and a worn sealskin cap. This man timidly asks for the ticket and pays in copper coins. Sergei realizes this man is Lashkov and asks him what he has been doing. Lashkov says he is doing well. He is a notary and earns 35 rubles a month. Sergei is delighted and tells Lashkov that he is almost like a godson to him. He reminds Lashkov of the scolding he had given him and thanks him for not forgetting his words. Lashkov thanks Sergei as well and says that had it not been for Sergei's help, Lashkov would probably still be lying and begging. He expresses his gratitude to Sergei but says that it was Olga who saved him. He explains that when he used to go to Sergei's house, Olga would sit opposite him, become sad and weep, saying that Lashkov was an unfortunate drunkard who would find no happiness in this life or the next. She would cry and be miserable, but most importantly, she would chop the wood for him. He confesses that he never chopped a single piece of wood and that she had done it all. He cannot explain how this act changed him and saved him. All he knows is that her words and kind deeds changed his heart, set him on the right path, and he would never forget that. Then the theater's bell rings and Lashkov bows and goes inside the gallery. Dear students, the title The Beggar is symbolic. That is the end of this story. On the surface, it appears to be a story about a beggar, a young man who had no aim or ambition, who had taken to lying to make some money, but given a right path. Being directed to a right path, he finds a place to live in and he changes. He becomes a man of honesty. The theme of the story can be kindness and compassion. It also highlights the human failing of being judgmental and labeling people while highlighting the ability of a person to change with the right motivation. The message for us is, let us not be judgmental, let us be kind enough and compassionate towards the needy and the downtrodden so that they may be lifted up high and able to live their life peacefully and comfortably. Thank you. Have a wonderful time.